Is it a report from the media outlets? But Kyle Lowry is putting it out there himself on Twitter. Miami Heat, Kyle Lowry, let's go. Lowry making it official.
Kyle done got paid, though. Is there any money left
According
for tomorrow?
According to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, it is a 3-year deal that will be a sign and trade. And again, let's go through the sign and trade here. It must be a minimum of 3 years to send Lowry from the Raptors to Miami, but there's a lot more that probably has to happen. And if you've been reading the tea leaves the last couple of days based on what Miami has done with both Andre Iguodala and Goran Dragic, we saw this coming.
We did see it coming. The Heat declined the option on Iguodala, so he's now an unrestricted free agent. They picked up the option on Dragic at $19.4 million, so he's going to go out in this deal. One important point here, guys, he doesn't necessarily need to end up in Toronto. He could end up with the Raptors, but he could go to another team, and this is what I'd be looking at. Again, we've talked about the team who need point guards. That's the theme of the night. The New York Knicks, the Dallas Mavericks, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Washington Wizards. Is there a way for them to get in on Dragic if they don't want to pay a Spencer Dinwiddie or Dennis Schroeder, one of these guys on a long-term multi-year deal? Is Dragic at 1 year a better option? I personally think that's a pretty good option. Precious Achiuwa looks like he's going to be in the deal and end up in Toronto. That's what Toronto wants. Right. We'll see how the Raptors value Dragic. Do they want him, or is there a third team involved that has Dragic landing somewhere that needs a point guard?
By the way, again, reading the tea leaves, and this is kind of just a guess here. Tea leaves are good. Yeah. You should filter them, though. Just be careful.
Yes.
Based on Scotty Barnes being drafted and the potential of Precious Achiuwa coming, you've got to wonder what the future is for Pascal Siakam. But that's a story for a different time. In terms of the Miami Heat here, they are not only getting Kyle Lowry, it looks like Duncan Robinson is re-signing, according to reports here. I want to follow up with what you said about Goran Dragic, because he seems like he could be, on paper, the next best option for a team like the Pelicans, who came into this process clearing cap space, needing a guy like him, because they struck out on Kyle Lowry. They're not bringing back Lonzo Ball, who's reportedly going to Chicago. How does David Griffin and Trajan Langdon and Swin Cash make that happen by getting involved in that sign and trade?
You're on the phone with Miami, seeing what's agreed upon with Toronto. How does Toronto feel about Dragic? You're on the phone with the Raptors as well, and seeing if we can expand this and make it a 3-team deal, because until it's done, the players could end up anywhere. It's important from Miami's perspective, as Goran Dragic's salary is outgoing, but it doesn't matter where it ends up. It could end up, again, in Toronto, New Orleans, Dallas, or somewhere else. So that's appealing to me. And this is the challenge, guys, if you're in a front office. Again, if you're skittish about giving, now we're talking about second or maybe third-tier point guards, a 3 or 4 year deal at a high number, you think you could regret that down the line. Dragic at 1 year gives you a player, and it also keeps your powder dry, lets you get back in the game next year while keeping your team competitive. So I think that's what those front offices are weighing. Do we want Dragic for 1 year, or the guys we've discussed, Dinwiddie, Schroeder, and some other guys on multi-year deals? I think that's what they're thinking about. But as we know, the market is moving very quickly, especially as these elite free agent stars tend to re-sign with their current teams.
Real quick, I like Dragic in Dallas. Of the two,
I like Dragic, period.
Now, I like somehow.
Keep this in mind, what they just did in Dallas by bringing Igor Kokoskov, your guy. Didn't you hire him as the head coach of the Phoenix Suns?
Yes, he coached Luka Doncic and Goran Dragic in 2017. They won the European Championship. He's now Jason Kidd's lead assistant and their offensive coordinator. There is a history there. One other important thing there, guys, they were close to a deal with Dragic going to Dallas a few years ago. You remember that deal famously fell apart.
That's right.
They resuscitated it, and now with the Mavericks.
Back with Ryan McDonough, former GM of the Suns, Sam Mitchell, Dennis Scott. I'm Jared Greenberg. Let's start here with Lowry deciding to Miami. Why do you believe, with as many teams as we heard that were interested in Lowry, Miami, New Orleans, Philadelphia, the Knicks, why do you believe he ultimately decided to pair with Jimmy Butler?
Well, first of all, they're friends. And then when you look at Kyle as a player, he's up there in age, but he still can handle the ball. He can still run the team. He's a knockdown three-point shooter. He's a tough defender. He takes charges. He's a leader. He's a champion. So when you look at everything that he brings to the table, it's a perfect fit for Miami, right? He can be a starting point guard. He can give the ball up to Jimmy and let Jimmy facilitate and handle it. He can knock down threes. And then when you look at Kyle, you don't have to give up some of your other pieces with Kyle. You don't have to give up some of your shooting. So when you look at Jimmy, Kyle, and Bam, to me, they're still one player away. I still believe in my heart we'll never see how good Bam can be till you play him at that power forward position. He can play the center position, but he's giving up so much size and girth and strength. But he can dominate at the power forward position. And to me, in the NBA, if you got a player that can dominate his position, like we saw with Giannis and others, then you got something special. And to me, I know in this NBA today, everybody want to take 6'9", 6'10" guys and play them at center because they can switch on defense and do all these other things. But the last 2 years, the last two NBA champions, starting with the Lakers in the bubble, what did they do to teams? They engulfed them with their size. They just overwhelmed them with their size. So when you look at Miami, they are skilled. They are good enough to compete. They still, to me, need to find that one piece every now and then to free Bam up so he can dominate at that power forward position. Because now you got Kyle, Jimmy, and Bam. If you play them right, you got three guys on a nightly basis that can dominate at their spots.
The only thing I would add to that, Jared, is that Miami from the bubble has recently been there and they have a taste of what it feels like. They know where the speed bumps are to try to get to the finals, where maybe New Orleans, they're still young, they're still trying to navigate just to get to the playoffs. I think that's another reason why Kyle Lowry said, you know what, I think I like Miami as all the teams on the table.
Let's shift gears here and talk about the team that has the opportunity to do the most in this free agent period, and that's the New York Knicks, because the Knicks have the most cap room to spend. Look at this.
Good gracious.
Whoa, $52 million.
Okay, well,
Really, I think you and I can get a deal.
Hey, I'm in the corner wide open, Ryan. I can still shoot it, Ryan.
Well, listen,
I'm still a good locker room guy. I can't play. I'm a locker room guy.
I don't know about that. Are you still a locker room?
I'm still a good locker room guy.
We have a locker room here, and you're not great.
You're not paying me.
Here's something that Knicks fans, need to get over the last few years, is that cap space has not won a single game for them.
That's right.
We've heard about cap space for the Knicks for a long time.
That's right.
They've got a lot of money to spend. As I mentioned, 39% of the league is a free agent. But is the right guy out there or guys to spend money on? A couple of things, housekeeping to take care of. The reports are out there that the Knicks are retaining at least two of their players, Alec Burks and Nerlens Noel. Each of them might be a surprise, getting a 3-year deal here for the Knicks. What's your take, Ryan, when you see these potential deals here for Noel and Alec Burks, and what the Knicks are setting up for over the next couple of hours, couple of days, couple of months?
Yeah, they're prioritizing their own free agents. The franchise had not been in the playoffs since 2013. They took a huge leap last year under Tom Thibodeau on the sideline, Leon Rose and Worldwide West in the front office. They were the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference, had home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. So they're rewarding the guys who helped get them there. Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel had big years. I think the challenge is, Jared, and this will be a theme throughout the night, the superstars re-signing with their current teams means these teams like New York, Dallas, New Orleans, who blew open cap space to try to help get a Kawhi Leonard, a Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry, they're not going to be able to do that. So I give the Knicks credit for not waiting. Obviously, you have to field a team next year, and you want to stay competitive, especially once you've tasted a top 4 seed and a trip to the playoffs. So they're prioritizing their own guys. They still, as we mentioned, had over $50 million in cap space, so they still have some to play with. But, again, that's the theme. Teams aren't going to wait tonight. They're going to try to sign players to stay competitive. Even if these aren't superstar names, these are rotational players who help the team function next season.
Let me just jump in here. Shams Charania of The Athletic and Stadium reporting that the deal is done. Kyle Lowry has agreed to become a member of the Miami Heat. Again, will that turn into a sign and trade? Will it turn into a 3-team or 4-team sign and trade? We'll have to watch and monitor that as it flushes out. We'll continue to talk Lowry as we have been throughout the night. The Knicks are interesting here, though, as we circle back to them, Sam. There's been a rumor that there could be mutual interest between the Knicks and DeMar DeRozan, but let's face it, if there was one glaring hole in the Knicks roster last year, it was that carnival that was going on at point guard constantly, whether it was Peyton or Ntilikina, who fell out of the rotation, or Emmanuel Quickley.
Derrick Rose,
who's a free agent. The Knicks need somebody to control the basketball for Tom Thibodeau. What are you doing if you're the Knicks with $52 million to spend?
Look at DeMar DeRozan. If you look at all those free agents out there, who is the guy that on that list that's available? It's DeMar DeRozan. Look at how he's evolved. San Antonio, 7 assists a game. We know he can get you 20-plus points, but now he can handle the ball. And then, look, I don't know if the Knicks need a traditional point guard. If you go sign DeMar DeRozan and you have Julius Randle. Julius Randle last year, for all practical purposes, was a de facto point guard. He handled the ball. So to me, How are you going to take the ball out of Julius Randle's hand and play him different now? No, you don't do that. You bring in a guy with size like DeMar DeRozan. Now you have two guys. You still got R.J. Barrett developing. You still got Toppin on this team that needs to be developed. You still got some young guards. You still got Derrick Rose. So you start to have pieces. DeMar DeRozan gives you a chance to play in the second round next year.
All right.
You think about it if you put him on that team.
Let me just circle back to DeMar DeRozan's best friend. Not only is it a report from the media outlets, but Kyle Lowry is putting it out there himself on Twitter. Miami Heat, Kyle Lowry, let's go. Lowry making it
3D
official.
Kyle done got paid, though. Is there any money left
According
for DeMar?
According to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, it is a 3-year deal that will be a sign and trade. And again, let's go through the sign and trade here. It must be a minimum of 3 years to send Lowry from the Raptors to Miami, but there's a lot more that probably has to happen. And if you've been reading the tea leaves the last couple of days based on what Miami has done with both Andre Iguodala and Goran Dragic, we saw this coming.
We did see it coming. The Heat declined the option on Iguodala, so he's now an unrestricted free agent. They picked up the option on Dragic at $19.4 million, so he's going to go out in this deal. One important point here.